everyone and welcome to this week's Sam Says. I'm Sam from the FPL Family and we're going to be thinking about Game Week 25. What happened, who got points, who didn't, and what does that mean for us in terms of Game Week 26 and the winter break that we have coming up over that Game Week 26. So 2 different weekends, 1 set of fixtures, 1 extra long game week for us to kind of ponder on between now and next Saturday's deadline. So we're going to focus in on 4 games from Game Week 25 and what they mean for us right now as FPL managers, starting with the early kick-off between Leicester and Chelsea. So Leicester and Chelsea then, I don't think anyone was really surprised to see goals in this game. 2-2, both sides doing a lot of attacking, some interesting defending out there for some of the goals as well. 2 goals from Rudiger for Chelsea alongside goals from Barnes and from Chilwell for Leicester. Assists from Tielemans twice and Mason Mount twice for Chelsea. So nothing again for VARDY, meaning that he's still not scored in 2020 and still only has that 1 assist and 1 missed penalty to his name. Harvey Barnes, on the other hand, this was his 3rd consecutive league goal. He has now got 4 attacking returns in the last 4 Premier League games. And obviously, from an FPL point of view, he's really nice for us in terms of his value and also his ownership. He's still a nice differential to have. Plus his price tag is that much lower than his other Leicester counterparts. So if you're thinking about a change in the Leicester personnel that you're deploying in your FPL teams, Harvey Barnes could be a really nice option. VARDY, as I say, back in the starting lineup for this game, having missed most of the League Cup game against Aston Villa in the middle of last week. Back in the starting lineup following that glute injury that he picked up during Game Week 24, was really unlucky actually not to get an assist right with his last touch of the ball in the 80th minute, just before he was substituted, putting a lovely cross for Harvey Barnes, who just missed the post by maybe a foot. So not a lot in it, and would have been a nice attacking return at a time where a lot of players are really seriously thinking about removing VARDY from their teams. He's again one of the most highly transferred out players ahead of Game Week 26, having only had 1 touch in the box during Game Week 25. But he was second only to Barnes for expected goal involvement in this game. So depending upon how much emphasis you play on expected goals, potentially it might be worth holding Jamie Vardy, but the eye test isn't really being passed for me right now. Some interesting lineups from Chelsea this week. Kepa missing out altogether. Callum Hudson-Odoi keeping his place, but Pulisic is due back, Lampard said, somewhere around the 26-27 mark. And so obviously we're hitting that point over the winter break. It'll be interesting to keep our ears on what Lampard has got to say in those press conferences to see whether Callum Hudson-Odoi is going to keep his place. He was one of the most heavily involved Chelsea players going forward in that attack, and he was unlucky actually not to get some attacking returns. So if he's going to keep his place, he could be a nice attacking differential for Chelsea in much the same way that Harvey Barnes is for Leicester. Other interesting things of note from Chelsea: Abraham started following that injury to his ankle at the end of Game Week 24. Was actually, very much a doubt, I think, ahead of this game. So good for his FPL managers that he was back and that his ankle isn't causing him any further grief. But in terms of FPL, disappointing that he blanked again in this game week. When you look at that Chelsea lineup before the game, it very much looks like they're going to set up in a 4-3-3 formation. However, actually what we saw is that it was Mount who was tasked with playing in that number 10 position. He was the one with the highest average position for Chelsea, and with Abraham often drifting a little bit deeper. So I guess what we need to think about over the next few weeks in terms of our Chelsea assets is which ones do we trust and which ones do we keep. Rudiger obviously with a couple of goals. Are the defenders ones that we should think about, the likes of Rudiger, Azpilicueta? The clean sheets just aren't there for Chelsea right now. If they can tie those in, then potentially those defenders become a more interesting option. But the attackers are the really interesting ones for me at Chelsea right now. Obviously there's Tammy Abraham, who was on good form but has had a really unlucky spell of late with injuries, particularly with that ankle injury at the end of Game Week 24, which may or may not have played a part in the position that he had during Game Week 25. But Mason Mount for sure looked back to being at his best again in this game with those 2 assists and, as I say, playing in the most advanced position for Chelsea. Alright, second game of this week then. Crystal Palace 0, Sheffield United 1. Would be a miss to start anywhere else other than with Lord Lundstrom. Lord Lundstrom had been benched for the last couple of games, and for us as FPL owners that was beginning to make us question whether we should still own him or not. Now, for pretty much all of us out there, and for most of you watching this, I'm sure you'll be with me in kind of thinking that Lord Lundstrom was going to be ever present in your teams over the course of this season. He certainly was for me. That was the intention. An out of position midfielder listed as a defender in the game, and not only as a defender but as a cheap defender. He looked like the absolute real deal from an FPL point of view. And for me, also owning Henderson, the double Sheffield United defence was working really well in terms of differential picks, because it was a meaning that every time a clean sheet rolled in, which is actually quite common now with Sheffield United, that I was getting double the returns, which was a lovely differential. With Lord Lundstrom now, we have a decision to make. He's been benched a couple of times for Bezic, with the new signing coming in, starting in his place, and also nearly scoring after 3 minutes. It looks unlikely that Lord Lundstrom's going to get his place back. So it's probably time for us to question whether he should actually stay in our FPL teams at all. So from an FPL point of view, this game was really all about the keepers. Dean Henderson and Gaia are two of the most highly owned and important FPL goalkeepers to us right now. Gaia ended up being a bit of the villain of the piece. What should have been an easy catch from Oliver Norwood, he carried across his line to score an own goal. Really disappointing if you're a Gaia owner and you played him this week. On the flip side, if you're a Henderson owner and you played him this week, second double-digit haul in 2 game weeks. Now, maybe less of a surprise this week, given that we're playing against Crystal Palace, and Crystal Palace haven't been so great attacking wise of late. But last week he got a double-digit haul against Manchester City, so looking really promising. In this game, he got 3 saves, obviously got the clean sheet and picked up all 3 bonus points. He's absolutely on fire right now. That is his 9th clean sheet across the season. Now for me, he is my goalkeeper of choice. He is absolutely kind of the one that I look to in most game weeks to play now. We have to bear in mind as FPL managers that in game week 28, as a result of Aston Villa making it to the League Cup final, Dean Henderson will blank, and he will not be able to play in game week 31 when Sheffield play Manchester United, as Manchester United are his parent club. So we do need to make sure that if we are going to board the Henderson train, or if you are already part of the Henderson train, that you do have a second rotating keeper alongside him. I have McCarthy, that worked okay. The best option for me, if you have a little look at the fixture ticker, is Newcastle. The Newcastle fixtures in game week 28 and in 31 look nice. So if you can rotate those 2 keepers, Sheffield United and Newcastle United together, they should provide some really nice clean sheet potential over the next 5-6 game weeks. Alright then, some key match stats from this game. Just 3 players managed to make more than 1 shot in the box. Benteke, Gary Cahill and Ender Stevens for Sheffield United. Of those 3, Stevens was also top for XGI, which is brilliant in terms of FPL because he plays as left back, he's listed as a defender in the game, so that makes him really useful to us as an FPL asset. The heat maps also show that in terms of Ender Stevens, the only Sheffield United player that was further forward than him during the course of the game was Fleck. So in terms of FPL and in terms of his attacking potential, as well as the potential that we know is there for clean sheets, given that they've got 9 so far this season, Ender Stevens could just be the new John Lundstrom. He could just be the player that brings us the clean sheets alongside bringing us some attacking returns. We can get through, as Sam says, without talking about Liverpool, of course. 22 points clear at the top of the Premier League, and their FPL assets looking absolutely untouchable right now in terms of owning them. We still seem to be going on this conversation about it's not just how many Liverpool assets anymore. The question is, we have 3, which 3 are we going to go with? Now, obviously, Mane's still injured. No yet clear deadline in terms of whether he will be back for Norwich. That was the last indication that we had from Klopp, that he should be back for that Norwich game, or he potentially could be back for that Norwich game. But given that they faced Atletico just 3 days later in the Champions League, maybe a triple way to Norwich isn't necessarily high on Klopp's radar in terms of risking Mane and bringing him straight back into the starting lineup. So if we're not having Mane, or we're deciding to leave him out of our lineups now, where are we going instead at Liverpool? Salah, of course, on his second double-digit haul in the last 2 games, seems absolutely back on form. And somehow that's not surprising. He always seems to kind of stand up and be counted when Mane is not there. He loves to kind of extend his lead over him in terms of that goal competition that they have between them. He got 2 goals in the last 20 minutes of this game, as well as all 3 bonus points. And he seems to be hitting his stride at a really nice time, given the Liverpool run of fixtures that they have coming up. Two really nice away fixtures at Norwich and Watford. And Watford are a little bit unsettled at the moment in terms of which Watford are you going to get. Are you going to get the Watford that had the new manager bounce a few weeks back and were looking really solid, or are we going to get the Watford that we saw this weekend, giving away a 2-goal lead? And then at home, Liverpool play West Ham and Bournemouth, two of the really out of form sides in the Premier League and two of the teams that are in a relegation scrap at the bottom of the league. So Salah hitting his form at exactly the right time. But it's not just Salah that's doing really well. Bobby Firmino still not scored a goal at home so far this season, but those two nice fixtures that I just mentioned, away at Norwich and away at Watford, look prime for goal scoring opportunities for Firmino. But actually, even in this game week, the lack of a goal wasn't necessarily a problem, as he got 3 assists. Which was great, meaning in the last 8 matches, Firmino has scored 4 goals, got 3 assists and has averaged 5.9 points per game, which for an FPL forward right now, particularly in this game week when only 2 FPL forwards actually got any goals, and of those 2, surprisingly, they were Murray at Brighton and Samatta, the new signing for Aston Villa, so not exactly the premium strikers returning this week. So for Firmino to get 3 assists in this game, really, really good for his owners. I think he's at 17.7% ownership now, on the back of people getting on him for the double game week, and then on the back of the double game week with Mane's injury moving to a different formation of Liverpool ownership. Other options at Liverpool, of course, it would be amiss not to talk about Jordan Henderson. Henderson was the standout performer for me, really, of the double game week in 24. Really surprising FPL asset standing up to be counted. Henderson, I think, from a football point of view, has looked fantastic all season, and he has been brilliant for Liverpool. Of that, there is no doubt. But it's only really been the last couple of game weeks that Henderson has started to show himself as potential in terms of FPL assets. So we saw that the first 23 matches of the season, he got 1 goal and 2 assists. In the last 3 matches, he's got 2 goals and 2 assists. His price tag is obviously much cheaper than the likes of Salah and Bobby and Mane that we've been talking about. And his ownership is a lot less at just 1.6%. Now, he is a bit of a cheeky pump because he isn't consistently scoring like this. We just happen to have had back-to-back returns from him in game week 24 and then again in game week 25. But potentially is definitely there for a cheap Liverpool asset that could do you well as a differential pick over the next fair few game weeks, actually. In terms of Southampton, they were actually really unlucky. They played really, really well for 45 minutes and managed to keep Liverpool really quiet, which is especially impressive given that they've got a situation at right back with Suarez having gone on loan to Arsenal during the window, and Valerie only just coming back from illness, meaning that they had to play James Ward-Prowse as right back, kind of a makeshift right back, really. Attack did definitely prove to be the best form of defence for Southampton, especially Ings looking really unlucky not to have got some attacking returns in that game. I think if you're a Danny Ings owner, it's definitely not the end of his kind of run. It looked really promising, and he made Alisson make a number of really important saves in the case of the game, which is actually why Alisson, of course, got a bonus point in this game. And also we have to remember that, Danny Ings was facing Liverpool. This was their 8th clean sheet in 9 matches. So they don't give away goals lightly, but they did give him a number of chances, and he was unlucky that he didn't take some. Interestingly for Liverpool this time around, they might have kept another clean sheet, but their defenders, none of them involved in any of the attacking returns, which is highly unusual given Liverpool's goal scoring and assisting potential that they have from their defenders. Some key match stats then for this one. Salah and Firmino level for big chances and shots on target, both at the top for that. Firmino with more key passes than any other Liverpool player. And Ings, even against that solid Liverpool defence that we've been talking about, still finished the game joint top for shots in the box, which is brilliant if you are an Ings FPL owner. I think the underlying stats are definitely there, and there's no need to panic on the fact that he hasn't now got any returns in this game. Final match stat then for me on this game, Robertson and Trent combined for a total of 0 chances created in this game. I cannot remember there being a Liverpool game for a very, very long time where Robertson and Trent had 0 chances created between them. This just never happens. So good job that they got their clean sheet this week, because no attacking returns, of course, for them. And with those no attacking returns, no bonus points either. Disappointing, I think, actually, sometimes now to just see the Liverpool defenders get a clean sheet. But with the fixtures coming up the way that they are, particularly away against Norwich next, who haven't been very solid defensively for most of the season. There should be some more potential for attacking returns for those guys alongside their clean sheets in the foreseeable future. Final game that I'm going to cover this week then, Spurs 2, Manchester City 0. For me, the biggest shock of the weekend. Debut goal for Steven Bergwijn, Son with another goal to add to his total since Mourinho took over, assist from Lucas Moura and Ndombele, and a penalty save. Now, this is the moment that we as FPL managers have been waiting for. Manchester City given a penalty with Aguero on the field. I think for all of us, we were all expecting Sergio to stand up and pop that in the back of the net. Gundogan stood up, took the penalty, which was saved by Lloris. Interestingly, at the end of the game, Pep said that it is between Sergio and Gundogan, and between them they have to decide who's going to take it. So we can only assume that the decision that they took on the pitch was that Gundogan would take this one. Be interesting to see whether, if City get awarded any further penalties this season, whether Aguero will stand up and take them. Because actually, as an FPL asset, does that make Aguero less attractive? Maybe slightly it does, yes, because obviously being on penalties is a nice thing to have, and particularly if it's on a player that you would be looking to captain in a lot of game weeks. So let's see what happens with that. I think the uncertainty with the Pep Roulette has now spilled into uncertainty with who's going to take the penalties too, but not Aguero this time, and a penalty miss, which would have been an Aguero assist, which maybe would have made that feel a little bit better for his FPL owners. Sticking with Aguero for just a minute, he had scored in his last 4 Premier League appearances. No joy against Spurs, but actually he was unlucky. As I say, he potentially should have taken the penalty. He missed a target from 2 yards out, made Toby Alderweireld make a great clearance from basically the line, from a perfectly good goal scoring opportunity, as well as making Lloris pull off another couple of saves. So he was unlucky that he didn't get any attacking returns, if not a little bit wasteful during the course of this game, and then substituted on the 64th minute, which is really frustrating for his FPL owners, particularly those that bought him in this week. There are a lot of Aguero transfers in this week ahead of this game against what has been of late a leaky Spurs defence, and I think there are a lot of high expectations of attacking returns from Aguero, which just weren't fulfilled in this game. Interesting game for Sterling this week. Got a yellow card for a bad tackle on Dele Alli, which was VAR'd for a potential red. Also was involved in the second potential penalty that didn't go his way either. So there was a lot of kind of umming and ahhing as to whether he was lucky to still be on the field in terms of getting a red card in that game. He didn't, just the yellow card, but then did limp off with an injury 10 minutes before the end of the game. Keep a close ear on what Pep's got to say in terms of Sterling and the effect that the game's had on him, and whether he's still going to be able to play over the course of Gameweek 26. Now, at the end of the game, when asked about him, Pep said that he hadn't had a chance to speak to the doctor yet, which for us as FPL owners is one of the most frustrating things that a manager could say, because it doesn't really give us any insight into whether Sterling is going to be fit or not for the weekend's action. So it is on Pep Guardiola's press conferences ahead of the weekend's fixtures to see whether Sterling's going to make it or not. In terms of Spurs, they were very, very much the underdogs in this game. They were very much kind of downtrodden by Manchester City for most of the game, but what they did do is take their chances. Bergwijn started his first match for Spurs, scored an absolutely amazing volley from the edge of the box, looked really bright, looked very fast, very pacey. Interesting to listen to Mourinho's comments about playing him straight away, talked about putting him into his favourite position and just giving him a chance. Now, he played on his favoured side on the left of the front three, but that position was very much fluid, and we saw during the course of the game that he and Son and Lucas Moura very much moved around, and that definitely worked in his favour. And in terms of FPL, if he continues to be played in that position that he likes, wearing Eriksen's number 23 shirt, hadn't even gone cold on the Eriksen transfer before it was given to him. If he continues to play like he did against Manchester City, then he could be a really lovely differential Spurs pick at a time where we're all starting to think about, do we want a Spurs attacker ahead of a slightly better run of fixtures that they have coming up, with Dele Alli getting a knock in that game during that tackle with Raheem Sterling and being flagged in the game. Interesting to kind of keep an eye on him and whether we should be looking to bring in a nice differential pick from Spurs. Definitely not a differential pick at Spurs' Son. He obviously scored the second for Spurs, which is his 8th attacking return in 10 starts under Mourinho. Mourinho really is getting the best out of Son, but quietly getting the best out of Son. I haven't really been convinced watching him in terms of the eye test being passed, but the stats and the FPL points suggest that actually he is doing well. And so if you still have a Mane problem, if you have a lot of money in the bank because you've transferred out Mane, if you are just looking for a change to get you up your mini leagues, Sonny is the height of consistency. Not necessarily big hauls each time, but there are attacking returns in most games right now. Like I say, 8 returns in 10 starts under Mourinho. So he has got potential to do good things for you in terms of your mini leagues. In terms of KDB as the most owned of all of the assets that we saw in this game, he was the most advanced of the City players, playing in a similar role to the one that he played against Liverpool and against Arsenal. He matched Aguero for penalty area touches over the course of the game, although we should bear in mind that Aguero played 30 minutes less than KDB did. And he was responsible for 3 of City's chances that they created in this game. In total, across the season, he supplied 88 key passes so far, which is only 11 less than Maddison got in the entirety of last season when he got the most chances created across the season. So we are looking at what could be a masterclass from KDB. Even with the blank this week, he is absolutely the FPL asset to own, in my opinion, from Manchester City. And so we shouldn't be thinking about transferring him out or doing anything other than just keeping him in and potentially giving him the armband in those nice fixtures that they have coming up. Alright then, some match stats from this one. No other player can match Aguero for efforts on goal or shots in the box this game. Gundogan, Sterling and Aguero were in the top 5 for expected goals across the whole of game week 25. All of them, of course, blanked in that game. And City's overall XG was the second highest of all of the Premier League clubs for game week 25. So they were definitely very, very unlucky not to get attacking returns in this game, and City as a whole were very, very unlucky to lose that game. Spurs, on the other hand, have only had 6 attempts, 6 shots across the whole of the 2 matches that they played against City this season, but they have scored 4 of them. So Spurs being very, very clinical with the chances that they are getting. Alright guys, thank you. That's it from me this week. Leave us a like before you go. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And I will see you at the halfway point of game week 26 to review the matches that we've had so far and think about what they mean for us in terms of game week 27 and of course the all important blank game week in 28 that we've got coming up. Thanks guys.